Good morning, Little Masters, and welcome back to today's Tolkien Times. I'm the Man of the West, also from the Prancing Pony podcast. Let's get started with Week 53's Word Nerd Wednesday. Now, so far this series, we've looked at the names of elves in Valar, Ireneon Gil-galad and his alleged father Fingon, the High King of Arda, Manwë Sulimo, the underrated Gildor Inglorian, and, of course, Varda herself. Now, this Saturday, we're going to continue our reading in the story of Eldarion and Erendis. And when we left last week, King Meneldor had resolved to summon the council and inform them of his decision to resign the scepter to his son Eldarion. Now, when we read on Saturday, we'll see that all of the council members ask him to hold off, save only Halatan of Hierostorni. You might think we'd be doing some word nerdery on Halatan's name, but no. If I did, it'd be the shortest Word Nerd Wednesday ever, ironically, since his name means tall man. No, it was the mention of Hierostorni that made me think that it would be a good idea to look at the names of the regions of the island of Númenor in today's Word Nerd Wednesday. In Unfinished Tales, there is a brief chapter entitled A Description of the Island of Númenor. We've looked at it before in discussing the holy days, Eru Kierme, prayer for the year in spring, Eru Laitele, praise for Eru in midsummer, and Eru Hantele, Thanksgiving at harvest time. We've also looked at the chapter for the stunning description of Eldalonde the Green, where we found the fragrant trees, Oyolaire, Lairolosse, Nessamelda, Bardarianna, Taniquilasse, and Yavanamire. But we've done our word nerdery on those already. Instead, let's look at the names of the regions by reading a paragraph from the text. The land of Númenor resembled in outline a five-pointed star, or pentangle, with a central portion some 250 miles across, north and south, and east and west, from which extended 5 large peninsular promontories. These promontories were regarded as separate regions, and they were named Forostar, Northlands, Andustar, Westlands, Hyarnustar, Southwestlands, Hjarostar, Southeastlands, and Orostar, Eastlands. The central portion was called Mitalmar, Inlands, and it had no coast, except the land about Romenna and the head of its firth. A small part of the Mitalmar was, however, separated from the rest and called Arandor, the King's Land. In Arandor were the haven of Romenna, the Meneltarma, and Armenelos, the city of the kings, and it was at all times the most populous region of Númenor. So you might ask, how can I do word nerdery on the meaning of these names when those meanings are, well, right there in the parentheses of the text? Well, let's find out. Aside from the last one, the central part known as Mitalmar, all the regions, the promontories of this five-pointed star, end with the suffix star. So let's start with that. Oh, man. Even I'm sorry about that one. The suffix sta, S-T-A, means part, as in a part of a close group, a collection. So star is plural. Let's go ahead and look at the various prefixes, some of which we've seen elsewhere. Forostar's first element, foro, is the prefix form of formen, meaning north, as in formenos, or its Sindarin cognate, forod, as in forodwaith or foroshel. Andustar's first element is the prefix andu, meaning west. You know this one. It's in Anduril, flame of the west, and Andune, the west. It's cognate with Sindarin anun, as in heneth anun, window on the west. Now, Hyarnustar's first element is a bit more complicated. It begins with the prefix Hyar, meaning south, but also includes the prefix nu, meaning west. That's a shortened version of Andu, so it means southwest. The Hyar actually means left hand, literally, but as elves look to the west as their primary direction, the south is to their left hand. Now, the only other place I could find for it was in an early name for Ormal, the southernmost of the two lamps that first lit the world. It had originally been named Ringil, but then in the 50s, Tolkien changed it to Hyaros and then Hyrante, both using that element for south, before eventually settling on Ormal. Now, the other place that Hyar prefix shows up is the next place, Hjarostar. Not surprisingly, the Ro prefix is east, so this is the southeast promontory. You'll probably recognize that Ro prefix for east from the name of a couple of Gondorian kings, Romendakil, meaning East Victor or East Slayer. Now, the last promontory is Orostar, with the prefix oro, meaning east. It literally means uprising, sunrise, or east. It would appear that the oro prefix is simply the full version of the ro prefix, but I can't find any other words that use it in full like this. Finally, the part of the island that isn't a promontory, the inland's called Mittalmar. According to what I was able to find, mitta is an element meaning between. Now, the second element, mar, is much more familiar and it means home. Think Eldamar, elven home, Valimar, dwelling of the Valar, or Vinyamar, which meant new dwelling. And folks, that is it for today's Word Nerd Wednesday. Come back next week as we wander the wide, wild, wonderful world of words weekly on Wednesdays. And if there's a word you want to know more about, please let me know by emailing barliman@theprancingponypodcast.com. Please visit patreon.com/Tolkien Times to learn how you can support the show, get an ad-free feed, a monthly hangout with me, a bonus weekly episode, and more. And then join me again tomorrow on today's Tolkien Times for Third Age Thursday. If you're watching this on YouTube, please like and subscribe. Please follow or subscribe in your podcast apps and follow @Tolkien Times on your social media. And finally, as Faramir says, go with the goodwill of all good men.